What is up, MSM? It is great to see you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sam, and at the time of this recording, I had actually just gotten to see our high school students off on their summer camp. We got them all packed up, ready to go, squared away in the vans, and our high school director, Ryan, is taking them out to the same camp that we're about to be going to. That's right, Camp Rock and Water. We're going to be hanging out there July 23rd through the 26th. That's a Friday through a Monday, and I cannot wait. Getting to see them off just got me all excited to go to summer camp, and I truly hope that if you're signed up, that you're stoked about it, because it's going to be a ton of fun at summer camp this year. But if you didn't get the chance to sign up yet, don't worry about it. We are full, but we're going to do more fun stuff like this in the future too. So don't feel bad. You didn't miss out. We're going to do more stuff like this later in the future. But if you'd like to keep up with our journey at camp and as a student ministry, you can follow us on Instagram at CPCFCMSM on Instagram. Again, that's CPCFCMSM on Instagram. You'll get camp updates and all sorts of stuff updating you on what's going on in the realm of MSM at CPC. So hope you get the chance to follow, and yeah, we follow back. You better believe it. And as of right now, let's get ready to hear an awesome message from Royce. Royce is here from college. She's a longtime CPCer, so she's got some real wisdom to share with us in our last week of our series called Known. Listen up.
Hi guys, so for those that don't know me, my name is Royce and I'm going to be helping out this summer. You'll see me Sundays if you haven't already. I'm going to be helping out with small groups. I'm also going to be river rafting, so put in the chat if you're going river rafting in July with us. It's going to be a ton of fun. I can't wait to get to know you guys more this summer. So before today I give this talk about God, knowing your purpose, and being known, following along with our theme of being known. A little bit about me is that I went to Burrell Middle School, so put in the chat if you're a fellow Bobcat. I went to Aragon after that. I transferred to San Mateo High School, and now I go to college, and I'm working to become a nurse one day. Along with becoming a nurse and careers and all that, I have a question to kick off this talk today about God's purpose and being known. So put it in the chat, your answer to this, if you have one. The question is, what do you guys want to be when you're older? I personally got asked this question a lot, so I'm curious to see your guys' answers. Okay, so when I was younger, I wanted to be 4 different things all at once. I wanted to be a drummer, a soccer player, an author, and the first female president. And I thought I could kind of be like Miley Cyrus meets Hannah Montana with Best of Both Worlds, but really it was 4 worlds of being a soccer player, drummer, all that stuff. And I shortly realized that I just couldn't do that, and that I actually was called to become a nurse. But I didn't realize that I was supposed to be a nurse until like a junior in high school. And that's kind of part of my talk today. There are going to be some of us who, like me, didn't know their purpose, and we don't need to know our purpose right now. If you guys don't know that answer to that question, that's totally okay. All you need to know is that God has a great purpose for your life, and you're totally known by Him, and He's totally got you. So the big theme right now that we're having is being known. And this week we're going to talk about God's purpose in your life. And we're going to specifically look at 2 characters in the Bible. We're going to look at Daniel and we're going to look at David and their confidence in their God-given purpose. So the first person we're going to look at is Daniel. So in Psalm 119, it says, by him, "For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well." I just love this psalm. I think the 3 main things we can take from it are that 1, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, which is a classic line that I'm sure you guys have heard. 2, that God made you so specifically and intentionally. You're so unique, and you have this unique God-given purpose, and you have a reason for being here. And 3, that you are intricately created. You are more than just one thing, and you are also more than what people say that you are, more than what people say of you. And we're going to touch that last topic specifically as well later on with the 2 stories of Daniel and David. Now, this was written by a guy named Daniel, and he's the dude that was in the lion's den, about to get killed by some lions. And the reason he was in this den to begin with is because he was praising God rather than praising King Darius, and Daniel did not like this. King Darius did not like this. And even though Daniel got sent to this den to face his death, Daniel didn't stop having faith in God, that he was going to deliver him, and that he was, he would remind himself, I bet, of these 3 things: that he was fearfully and wonderfully made, that he was more than what people said of him, and more than what people tried to do to him, like put him in a lion's den like King Darius did. And he realized that he kept reminding himself that he had a God-given purpose, and in the end he was going to fulfill it. And so he continued worshiping and praising and having faith in the Lord, and the Lord delivered him and rescued him from this den. What's also so crazy to me and special about Psalm 119 is that Daniel is really telling us in adjectives how intentional God is when he created us and who God says we are. Like Daniel knew, and Daniel's telling us that we are, God says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. We have a purpose, and that we are more than just one thing and what people say we are. Something else really interesting about the story of Daniel specifically is King Darius, kind of touching on that last point of more than what people say we are, think of us and all that stuff, is that King Darius, wants power and control. He's a king, and he wants to be thought of as the higher authority, and Daniel just won't do it. He continues praising the Lord, and that really infuriates Darius, and so he sends him into this den to face his death. And Daniel just keeps reminding him that he is more than what people say he is. He knows how great his God is, and how great Daniel is, how great he is, because he is a wonderful work of the Lord. And there's someone in the Bible who also really understands this experience of people trying to knock him down, and he has to persevere and get back up with the strength of the Lord. He was told the exact same thing, but it was so clear that God had a purpose for that guy's life, and that guy is David. So David was this young guy. He was 15 when he found out that he was going to become king one day. He was anointed king at 15, and it took him 15 years to finally become king, for this to happen, for him to finally be in his purpose. But what I find so interesting about this is that he heard that he was going to become king one day, but he didn't wait around for it to happen. He didn't twiddle his thumbs like we do before the cafeteria, before the bell rings for us to go to lunch, which I find so encouraging, because we don't need to, for me, I don't need to be a nurse right now to be fulfilling my purpose. I can still do little things that glorify God for my greater purpose in life. And so, for example, David was 15 when he was anointed king, and it took him 15 years to become king, so he was 30 at the time when he finally, stepped into the role. And in 2 Samuel 2:5, we see that right after he's anointed, he goes home to lead and shepherd his father's sheep. So although David was going to become a leader, he didn't wait for the position to be handed to him. He didn't wait for the crown on his head. Instead, he continued leading in the capacity he was already in. He was leading before he became a leader. We see this in 2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 2. His people are telling him about his leadership and who he is as a person. They're really speaking life into the idea that David is doing the right thing. David is leading. David is stepping into his purpose, or he already has. It says, quote, "In times past, when Saul, the other king, was king over us, it was you, David, who led out and brought in Israel." So they're saying, in the past, when Saul was king, you were still leading where you were at. And what's even crazier is that while David is fulfilling slowly this God-given purpose he's been given at the age of 15, by the simple example of leading his father's sheep, he's also on the run from the current king that gets mentioned in chapter 5, King Saul. This guy is constantly trying to kill him because he's jealous that he's going to get overthrown one day. There's going to be a new king one day, and it's going to be King David. And what invigorates him so much too, I bet, is that David has a God-given purpose of becoming king, and Saul knows it's going to get taken away from him, and so he goes out to try to kill him before he can actually step into this role at the age of 30. And I think that really just ties into how people can say things about us that just don't match what God says, like in the passage of Psalm 119. They might try to tell us that we can't do things out of jealousy or out of anger, that they aren't in the role that we are destined to be in, or something like that, like Saul, for example. And they try to knock us down with their words or their actions. And sometimes people say that we're not special, or that we're not loved, or that we're weird, or that we're too clumsy, or we're not smart enough, or something like that, and that no one will ever understand us. And that can be so hard to hear, but we have to, instead of hearing the words of the world, we need to hear the words of God in the Bible and who God says we are, with these adjectives of fearfully and wonderfully made, and your works are wonderful, and we need to know that full well, as Psalm 119 says. We just need to remind ourselves that that's not true. That doesn't line up with what God says about us. God does not say these things about us, and he knows our purpose, and we're going to pursue that and block out the haters and what they have said. I've definitely had to experience this. When I was in high school, for example, I got a C in biology freshman year. And I was and still am a really clumsy person. And because of these two things, of being clumsy and not getting the most amazing stellar grade in biology freshman year, people told me that I shouldn't become a nurse, and I couldn't do it. I was a dumb blonde. I wasn't going to be able to do good in the classes. I was too clumsy to, be walking around in the hospital helping people. But actually, in my senior year, not out of the idea of proving them wrong, but because I knew my God-given purpose, I decided to take AP Biology, so even more intense than the first one. And I actually received an A in the class. And now in college, fast forwarding to college, my nursing classmates are now asking me to help them study for the exams that they're struggling in. And I don't say any of this to brag, but I think it really goes to show that what people say about us is so different than what God says, and who God says we are. The person who created us, God, knows our purpose, and says these amazing things about us in Psalms 119. And David knew these three things from Psalms. He knew that he was fearfully made, and God had a specific purpose in his life, and that he was more than what King Saul was trying to do, and he was called to a higher thing, and that his age wasn't going to stop him, which I think is really encouraging for for being in the younger generation of things, being a middle schooler, being a high schooler, being a college student. I don't need to be a nurse right now to be fulfilling my purpose in life. So whenever someone tells you that you just can't do something, or they make you feel like you're not special, we just need to stop, and we need to realize that they don't know our purpose. And if someone tells you that you're too young, we can just remind ourselves of David, who led before he even became a leader at the age of 15. Right now in your life, it doesn't matter if we don't have the answers to what do you want to be when you grow up. I didn't have that answer half of my life. And instead, what matters is that you know who you are in Christ, and know your identity in Christ, and realizing and feeling the peace that God knows your purpose, maybe before you even know it. And the things you do now before you even know what you want to be when you're older can bring glory to God. Some examples of how you can lead before you become a leader and pursue your purpose without maybe knowing it or being fully in it. Like me before I become a nurse. Some examples would be leading your soccer team, dividing up tasks in a school project, pursuing your hobbies amidst what other people are saying about them. Like for the 8th grade science fair, if you want to, build something crazy cool, do it. Like, don't listen to what other people have to say, because those hobbies are on your heart and fascinate you for a reason, because God gave you those interests. Playing an instrument in middle school with the band and having a solo and taking charge of that. Turning your homework in on time, or being conscientious of the words you say when you're playing video games like Fortnite. Just really understanding and taking in that you are more than what people say about you, and that you don't have to wait for your sense of purpose to bring glory to our God. We can just be like David, and by knowing God has a purpose for our lives, we can live a life that shows God's love and our faith in God. So remember, this week, when you're having trouble with the negative thoughts of others, block the haters and just turn to Psalm 119 and remember those two characters of Daniel and David, which will remind us to be confident in who God says we are, and call us to be, and who he calls us to be. I hope this was helpful for you guys, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Sing Jesus. Let's sing it together. This Jesus that carried our shame. This Jesus who rose from the grave. Sing Jesus. We worship today. We worship today. Came to us. Grace and red truth still with us. Still on the move, sing Jesus. He's making us new. He's making us new. Let's declare it. I know that my Redeemer lives. I know that my Redeemer lives. Still keeping all his promises. Sing Jesus. Sing Jesus. His cry.